Yeah, I don't have Anne Marie's picture.
My camera's off.
How come?
I'll turn it on in a minute. Because I'm
Okay,
still
Okay, I'm in.
around.
Hi, Ted. Let me see.
Good morning or afternoon. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
All right, good. I'm trying my new system here.
Okay.
Good. Turn that off. My head, maybe. Need this one, maybe. This one on. All right. Okay. It's better.
Hi, Ted.
Hey, Tim, how you doing today?
I'm well. Hi, Carolyn.
Hey, Ted. Excuse me. I was reading something. I'm sorry, Tim.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Thanks again for this afternoon. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. Here's Janelle.
Hi.
Hello.
Yep, we're beginning to get an audience too. That's good.
Glenn did say he was on his way from Milton,
Okay,
so he may be a moment late, but
okay. We can go ahead and get started in a couple minutes here.
and Andrew, if you recall, is recused on this, so he will not be.
He's actually going to join. He's going to watch as an attendee and then he'll come in when we're done.
Okay.
Hi,
So,
Cleo.
hi, Khalil.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello, everybody.
Khalil.
There he is. Lynn's here.
All right.
You must have been good at sliding into first base or home plate, Glenn. You always slide in right at the. Right
I
at
just
the-
left Milton. I had an executive session in Milton tonight,
Okay.
so
Oh, well.
just in time.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we probably can go ahead and get started. So it is 6 o'clock on Monday, June the 7th, and we're here for a public hearing. Public hearing regarding and a presentation and discussion regarding the site plan for the construction of the Lewes Middle School with the site improvements and field and athletic fields. The properties are located off Savannah Road and Sussex Drive and DuPont Avenue. Sussex County Tax Map 335-8.07-31, 335-8.11-30.00, and 34.00. This project has been before the Joint Site Ad Hoc Review Committee for review, and Janelle is with us this evening. It did come out of that program, out of that with a recommendation to move forward, and we set the public hearing at our last meeting, and so we are here to discuss this. And we have Brian, the two Brians, Brian Bassett and Brian Williams, with us this evening. And I believe, Janelle, that they would like to make an overview presentation first. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So if we could bring Brian and Brian.
Yep, I'm doing that now.
Good evening.
Brian,
How you doing?
okay, you must be bedlam at the Cape School with a graduation tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm just trying to stay out of the way and get the site cleaned up a little bit, but it is making it challenging over there.
I bet.
More bedlam at Milton Elementary School. We're a couple weeks from hopefully moving in, so it's a mad dash at the moment.
Okay, good. Hi, Brian. Williams, thank you for joining.
Good evening. Yeah, thank you for having us.
Okay, so I think we have 13 attendees, including members of the public and a couple of other people that are interested. So we have an overview from you. We'll go ahead and give the floor to you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. And I know a lot of people in attendance have attended the previous meetings that you already mentioned, so we didn't want to go through the exact same slideshow in that detail. So I'm going to just attempt to do a quick summary. I think it'll answer some of the questions that would probably come up at the public hearing. And I think it'll trigger probably some new questions if people can actually see the space. And we haven't shown the interior spaces before, and I like to just show a few of those if we can. I think it really helps explain why the outside needs to be the way that we're showing it to kind of make the curriculum work. So Janelle, I think you have control of it. If you can start at the first, that's the interior one.
Yeah, if we can go back to the
Other
original
slide.
one. Sorry, Janelle.
Yeah, and then I'll jump to the interior one, but I'll just zip through that other one just for a general layout. Yeah, that's perfect. If you can start that one for me. And you can skip right to slide 3, just an overview. It's a 600 student middle school, so it's actually smaller than the existing Shields school that's here now. Shields Elementary has had up to 820 students in the past. For those that aren't familiar, Shields is moving across the street into the new renovated Lewes School building. So that will become Shields Elementary. And then the site where Shields was is going to become our new middle school. And as everyone that's probably on this Zoom knows, that site's not big enough to have everything that a middle school needs. So that's why we're creating a campus. We have enough land behind the Lewes School and some land up at the Fred Thomas building to put in all the athletic fields that we need to make it equivalent to Beacon and Mariner Middle School. So it is going to be a 3-site campus, but the main building will be the current Shields Elementary School. Okay, next slide. So this is how the layout is proposed. In the bottom middle of the screen, that's going to be the new Shields Elementary. And 2 things I want to point out on that, even though it's not this project, right in the middle will be the new Shields. There we go. Is the parking that's going in there, because the new parking for that site is actually a driver of our site on how we have things laid out. So if you look where the cursor is, that is a new parent queue drop-off staff parking lot. So we're hoping to get all the traffic off of Sussex Drive that currently is with Shields Elementary. We haven't had a parking lot that large before to go for that school. And then on the left of the building is a separate bus parking lot off of Sussex Drive. So we feel like both of those are going to help alleviate some pressure on Sussex and Savannah. And these two schools will also be staggered an hour apart. So we won't have bus traffic for both schools here at the same time. So with that said, on the bottom left, that's where the proposed middle school is going. And we'll go over the orientation of the building a little bit in a few slides, but basically, you know, we turned it so that the students are getting the best view and the best daylight of the building. So it's kind of, there's really 4 fronts to this building, but what I consider the main front is that 3-story classroom wing that's going to be facing the athletic fields. And then behind the building on the lower left is the bus parking lot. And all those other spaces are for after hours events. If there's a large event in the auditorium or the cafeteria, that's where the parking would be for those events. And on the top of that site, that's the parent queue. So we're hoping that parents can come down Sussex Drive, make a left, queue all the way around, and we can really stretch them out on that long runway there to get them off of Sussex and Savannah, which is our goal. Behind the new Shields Elementary, where you see a baseball diamond and softball diamond, pretty excited that that's where athletic fields have been at that site when it was a middle school and high school in the past, and being able to keep those fields there, we're hoping will bring some good luck to the teams. And we also have a multi-purpose like a soccer field just below those two. And then all those pathways are connectors for our athletic fields, and it will lead up to the Fred Thomas building where we're putting in the track and also a multi-purpose field in the middle. But those pathways are more than just pathways for sports and athletics. It's really for after hours for the city. You know, we just want to connect the walkways, the walking paths, the bike paths. We think this is a really neat way to tie in DuPont Avenue and some different areas of Lewes and get people off of Savannah. Okay. Next slide. So the track we're showing, and you can click one more if you don't mind, Janelle. It's showing a blue rubberized track. That would be an alternate, and I would give it 5% chance or less of happening. Most likely that it's going to be a stone track, same as Beacon and Mariner has, because they use it for practice. Their large actual meets or events are held at the high school. But we're just showing it that way with the rubber track. But again, it'll bid as a stone track. And to the left and right of that are 2 swales for stormwater management. So this site currently has nothing. The water goes wherever it wants to go. So our site will be able to finally control that water on the site and send it into those 2 stormwater retention areas. And also on the left there, we do have a current building there that we're either going to renovate or we're going to replace. But that building, one way or the other, will have restrooms for the people that are over at this site so that they don't have to go all the way back to the main building. Okay, next slide, if you don't mind.
And sorry, one more thing. On each of these slides, we're also, you see in the lower right there, we're adding trees to the property. And this is our number now that we're adding 9 trees, you know, depending on how all these other things fall out and as we get through DENREC, et cetera. But that is our goal. And what we're showing on our submitted plans is to add 9 more trees to this property.
Great, thank you. And I think the main site, I may have skipped it, or maybe it's on this slide.
It'll be on each one, Brian, sorry.
Yeah, so here, and you can click one more, even get that on the screen, it'd be great. Thank you. I'm sorry, go back one more, took it away. This is just connecting that behind the Lewes School to the Fred Thomas building. There will be a sidewalk connector. There's a couple things here that are alternates. That right now is, we had thought about an observation tower. We really just want something that we can aim people to the track to say, go to that landmark. It won't be a tall tower. That's kind of already been shelved by the district, but there'll be some sort of thing. Maybe it'll be a statue of the mayor there, Mayor Becker, if you want. Something there as a landmark. And the other thing to the left of it, item D, that's proposed to be an alternate. We hope we can pull it off. It'll be a suspended boardwalk so that you can actually cross over top that pond that's part of the Shields Elementary project. Very similar to what's at the state park. And we have a few images of what that could look like that we can show you if some people have some questions. If funding's not there and we're not able to do that, it would just be the connector C, just a sidewalk. It looks like my screen just went dark on our energy saving light. So hopefully you can still see me a little bit. And then B is just a pavilion that we're proposing that we think could be used by the district, but also by the farmers market and different groups that are out there at the pond. And then I believe the next slide shows the tree count. I'm sorry, it shows the solar bollards. Part of the last few meetings that we went through really talked about, would we have lighting on the site or not? There is not lighting for the athletic fields because there won't be night events and we don't want that on the neighbors. So there's no athletic field lighting. However, we would like to put some solar powered bollard style lights just for some, down throw lights on the paths, just in case someone's out there late at night, you kind of have an idea of where the sidewalks are going.
And some more up at the Fred Thomas entrance as well, Brian and Janelle.
Yep.
Just at each entrance to the site, sort of just for safety purposes, but not throughout, because we
Yep.
don't want to be a distraction to everyone else.
Exactly. And then we'll also have restrooms in the bottom of the screen, the new playground that's going in as part of the new Shields Elementary, again, separate project, but it has bathrooms on the exterior wall that we can control for events. People can't get into the entire building. They can just get into restrooms, and those would be open when there are athletic events or practices at this site, so people don't have to walk back to the middle school.
And we do have the tree count on this one as well, and we're adding, you can see, nearly 60 trees. So 43 of the deciduous, oaks, whatever is local, we'll find something local, and then 13 evergreens, and most of them around the perimeter, obviously to define what's going on, and also to sort of be sensitive and shielding to both the neighbors, the roads, et cetera. And obviously we're not going to put one in the middle of the fields, but to sort of define the space. We are adding a significant number of trees, and when you get the next one, even more so.
Exactly. Thank you, Brian.
And sorry, there was a quick slide there with the crosswalk. Yeah, the blue, just a quick highlight there. That was a discussion item. We had initially proposed as a form of traffic calming to have a plateaued drive crossover. We understand correctly so that we are not permitted to do that. So we discussed having a system of pavers, and so that's what that'll be representing there. The shape, et cetera, will be more refined, and a pattern will be dictated. But we just, for this purposes, we wanted to show what the intent was. There'll be concrete underneath for durability, probably a concrete border around it, to interact with the adjacent asphalt. But this will be something that will be refined as the process goes along. But we wanted to show that was an issue that came up a couple times at the last meeting. And then also you can kind of see the boardwalk sort of make its way onto the school. We have another one on this property that will cross over that stormwater pond, again, with DENREC's blessing.
And those pavers, we like the idea of different colors, or maybe even a mural. We may try to do some Cape type colors or something else, but all that would come on future renderings. Okay, next slide. And I'll try to get through these other ones quicker so we can get to the questions. But, it's a large campus because of it's tying in those 3 sites, but this is actually the main building where current Shield sits. And just to kind of, again, highlight, there's that parent queue up top, bus parking lot on the left, and then that parking lot on the right is for staff and visitors. So we'll get to the next couple slides to go into some of the slides. The tree count on this is very high, 158 total trees being planted on this site. And then our parking count is 177 on this site. We feel like for all of our big events that this can handle it, but we also have those parking lots I showed you next door at the new Shields Elementary. So if there really is a big event, we would use both parking lots from both of our school sites. And we don't believe that anyone would be or should be parking on Sussex Drive. Okay, next slide. And you can click through a few of these. This is just our landscaping package. The architects did a fantastic job of choosing native plants. We wanted to blend in, and, they really went above and beyond what some of our past projects have done as far as landscaping to really make sure that it fits the area that we're in. And even some of the features, very nautical on the flagpole and on the benches, again, just trying to tie it into the city of Lewes the best that we can. The aerial views first one will show behind Savannah. So on the bottom right, that's the row of houses in front of our school. That barrel style roof is the gymnasium. To the left of that is cafeteria and gym. And then on the top right is the 3-story classroom wing. And on the right-hand side, the most narrow part of the building is the library. And it's so narrow there because you can't really see that from Savannah when you're driving. You only get a quick glimpse. So that's all we're providing is just a quick glimpse of the building. And the probably most prominent side of the building is facing the fields. Okay, next slide. I'll point out just one thing too, because I'm sure this is going to come up in the hearing. So our school board approved the shape and the layout of the building. They have not approved colors. We're not at that stage yet. We have to get through the city and through everyone else yet. So we've already, talked about changing the shade of the brick. We were trying to do a little history and make it the same color of the old Shields Elementary. And we kind of heard from the public, everybody thinks that shade's ugly. And honestly, we kind of agree. So we're looking at going with other shades of red brick that are found throughout the city of Lewes. But again, these are just placeholders for the colors on the building. Really kind of focus more on the shape and layout if you can. And there's a few more views of this. You can keep clicking. This is the view coming down Savannah. So the building on the middle right is the existing historic building that's getting restored to its former glory, as we say. So that'd be the front of the new Shields Elementary, which is the Lewes School. And then, this rendering even makes it look a little bigger than it is. I just drove down here this evening, and it's such a 1-second look of the building that you just get a peek of it. And you'll see the library and maybe a little bit of the 3-story side, but it's just a quick view in between the buildings. I think there's a few more. Oh, we'll go to the floor plan. Okay, great. And I'm not going to go into detail on this besides to show you on the right, the yellow is the 3-story classroom side. These are single load corridors. Because there's only mainly classrooms on one side, it's real important to get as much daylight as we can on that right-hand side. That's why the windows are the taller, more storefront window than the historic ones at the Lewes building. It's really to meet the needs of the classroom. And not only the classrooms, but in the middle of the building where it's orange and pink and blue. Really, no one's seen this besides our school board, but this is what we're calling the village area. It is our super all-in-one auditorium, cafeteria, collaborative space village. It's a meeting spot for the students and staff, and it's going to be unlike anything Delaware has currently. But I have a feeling everybody else in Delaware is going to try to get it very soon. And to pull that off, we need the barrel roof on the gym, and we need the windows on that right-hand side of the building. And if we can get to some of the interior stuff, I'll show you what we mean. You can go ahead and click to the next one, Janelle. This is just moving up the building. Second story is 7th grade, and then the next slide is 8th grade all the way up top. So a few of the exterior renderings. If you're coming down Sussex, kind of at the corner here where the little garage is, this is how far back the building sits. And as we get further along, the renderings get more realistic looking. This one, they kind of went above and beyond, for this stage on what the rendering could look like. But you'll see you can barely make out the barrel roof or other things because the building is set back so far, which I think is great. It's really like a nice little hideaway back there. Next slide, going around the building, or this is it during the daytime. And the name on the side, Breakwater, is just a placeholder. We'll still have a naming committee, but Mr. Williams here, being a lifelong Lewes person and Cape grad, suggested that name, and because he controls the renderings, it's on there, and I like it. So good job, Brian. So the barrel roof for the gym, those panels that you see that look tan, they are actually going to be wood looking. They'll have a wood grain and wood in color. We want it to look a lot like driftwood, very natural to kind of tie into the Cape Henlopen State Park. It's just very hard to get that on this level of rendering. And that brick is the existing Shields brick, which we've heard is too pink or not the right color. And we've got some ideas to go with some other reds, like I mentioned, from around town. So the next couple slides are just zooming around the building, and I won't get into all that unless there's questions. So you can just keep clicking through those. It'll be great. It does show the landscaping and the amount of trees, and that's the parent drop off. That'll be the backside of the building by the University of Delaware campus. And then this is what I'm calling the most prominent one. If you can go back one, Janelle, that's that 3-story building facing the athletic fields. And, we asked our architects to trick the eye. That's why the bottom brick, those windows are so tall, because that's actually 2 floors. That's 6th grade and 7th grade. But from a distance, it kind of looks like a 2-story building. We didn't want it to look like it was 3 stories tall. And I think by doing the materials this way and the windows this way, it's going to really pull that off. And then the next slide, Janelle, you showed is the front of the building, which is our little piece for the library. And again, the glass looks pretty modern, but right next to it is a stone feature wall with the brick underneath it and a rooftop garden. So a lot of natural pieces to that. And our function for this library is really dependent on that natural light coming in, and we'll show you that in a few. And at night, it won't look this bright. This is for dramatic effect, the full moon and the lights as bright as they are, but just kind of showing you a night view. But again, it won't be that bright actually.
Sorry, this was to impress the school board. This isn't actually how bright it's going to be. It's a little dramatic license there. So we addressed, we had some questions about lighting, bothering the neighbors with lighting. By code, we're not allowed to have light leave our property. So we will adhere to that. This is, again, forgive my artistic license on this one. We were just trying to get them excited.
Yep, absolutely. And then that's it from a distance. Again, won't be that bright and during the daytime.
Mm-hmm.
Janelle, the next couple slides, I think, are schedule, which I can just hit quickly. We're hoping to bid this next February or March. We're hoping to move the students into their new Shields Elementary sometime between February and April of next year. We have to get them moved out before we can start work on this building. And then even though when they move out, we can't start building right away. We have to do an asbestos abatement on the current building. Then we have to demolish the current building and then get the site ready for construction. So, we're looking at finishing it all up summer of 24, and it would open for school year 24 for the middle school. Then other PowerPoint, Janelle, that you had for the interior renderings, I really want to get to the questions and not talk up all of our time. So if you could pull up that presentation, I'm going to go off script, Brian. If you could go to the last slide of the interiors, it's actually a video, and I can talk over top the video and kind of save going through a bunch of slides because all of these spaces are shown in the video.
Yeah, they all appear in there. So that's probably a good idea.
So the video, even though it's still that same level of rendering, you can kind of get a feel for the space better with the landscape. And zooming in here, you can see the rooftop garden to the right, and kind of zooming in around. This would be where visitors would enter. This would be the main entrance. And again, Brian's nice touches of the nautical benches and the nautical flagpoles and the number of trees. It really breaks down the scale of it when you can zoom through it like this. So coming in this way would be the main office straight ahead. And then you would hit the main corridor or the main spine. So on the left is the gym, and now all of a sudden that barrel roof looks a whole lot better when you can see what it does from the inside. By going up so high on the right there, we can actually get daylight into those classroom corridors that were single load corridors. And then this is our village spot. It's our main stair tower. It's our auditorium. It's our cafeteria. And you can get to the gym from it as well. But this will be seating space for the cafeteria with the auditorium on the left. And stacked all the way on the right is that 3 levels of classroom. So it's the focal point and the meeting spot for the entire building. It's got platform levels, and this auditorium can be closed off for a small, smaller performance, like a black box type style or a piano concert. But if you open that wall up, you can double the seating by having everyone sit on the stair towers and on those skyboxes, really. There's 2 viewing areas up top. And then this is leading you to what we call our learning commons. Every grade level has a middle spot that is be full of furniture for breakout space. But this is one of those windows that you saw from the outside that'll actually have some color panels, probably a blue shade, and that would be looking out to the athletic fields. So all those windows open up into these collab spaces. This is the middle level. So if you were coming from that window, you can see down to the auditorium when it's all open to one big meeting space. And then there's also a stair tower coming up that will take you up to the 3rd floor. Of course, we'll also have an elevator in the building, meet all the new ADA requirements. But here you can really see why we went with the barrel roof. This hallway changes with those windows and being able to see into the gym. Too many of Cape's former schools were block hallways and no windows. Brian went to most of those schools. We want viewing angles everywhere in all of our new schools that we're building. So this is the 3rd floor. And again, you can still see down into that auditorium and meeting space. And this is the collaborative. So the classroom wings are left and right here facing out to that building. So I'm going to shut up at that point and turn it over for questions and comments. I hope that was at least a quick enough summary to maybe answer a few questions and trigger a few others. And Brian's going to help me. We'll do our best to answer your questions tonight.
Great. Brian, thank you both very much for the very informative presentation. We have 4 questions in the question and answer box already, so I think we'll deal with those and then we'll come back, okay? So the first question came from Cindy Castellano. When the 2 stormwater retention ponds near the track fill up, where will the water go? Will they tie into the storm sewer or tax ditch system? As these are areas where are excellent for or adjacent to existing homes, what effort will be made to prevent the water from flowing into people's yards?
So luckily we have our friends at DENREC with all their new regulations for us, but no water will leave this site into the yards. Now, there's some things that are out of our control. There's a few homes that are lower than the road. That's really not part of our project. That's a different situation. But where those 2 retention ponds are located, the water will not leave into those yards off of Johnson Avenue or behind where Fred Thomas is. They'll have some overflow pipes, and Brian, you may have to help me because the projects are running together a little bit, but I believe the overflow pipes will either flow into the existing sewer or may even tie into the new Shields Elementary system.
Yeah, I believe that's the case. I'd have to look at which does what, but yeah, we're tying into a system. We will not be flooding someone else's. And as Brian, you said initially, we're fixing a problem that's there already that has nothing addressing it.
And we have great news. Zach Crouch, our engineer from DBF, just texted me. He's online. So if we could get him,
Oh, great.
his mic turned on, he could answer where the water is going from those stormwater ponds.
Good.
Zach, are you with us?
Bring him in.
He's coming.
Great, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, that existing system, well, we'll tie into our existing system. So I think there were some questions in reference to, is there going to be another discharge into Blockhouse Pond? And the answer is no. So per Denarec requirements and state law, I mean, as Brian has explained, we're going to contain everything on the site, and then we will connect into the existing system, and the whole system will function as one system.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Zach.
Okay, then the next question is, it looks like it's a partial question from Norma Morrison. It just says, I believe I heard Charlie. And then later on, she comes back and has that question further fleshed out. And that one reads, I believe I heard Charlie O'Donnell mention at the close of the last hearing that he planned on connecting the middle school to the water main under Sussex Drive. Is this the plan? Highland Acres homeowners had to pay for the installation of that water main as part of our water sewer project. If it is now to be used as BPW infrastructure, as we argued, it was back then, Highland Acre property owners will be owed reimbursement for the water main. I don't know the answer to that. Is Charlie available?
Charlie is not able to be with us tonight, but I do see Josh is on here.
Okay.
Josh, if you should be able to unmute. I don't know if you know the answer to that question now.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sounds like a pretty good question, actually, and one that I would not be able to answer off the top of my head.
Okay.
But I'll look
Press
into.
is on as well. Should I promote Press?
Sure.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the question.
The question is the tie into the water main on Sussex Drive, and whether or not that's what you're going to be doing.
Right, and more importantly, I guess the Highland Acres residents want to know if they're going to be reimbursed since they paid for that water main.
I don't know the answers to those questions.
Okay, so we'll
Yep.
have to go back to Charlie with that. Thanks, Press. Okay.
Hold on. It looks like Darren's on as well. Sorry. Darren put in the Q&A that the Highland Acres citizens paid their pro rata share and the BPW paid the rest.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, that should answer Norma's question then. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, Press. Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Am I being demoted again?
I can turn off your video, but I can't demote.
We're seeing the shine on your forehead.
I know. Sorry.
That's okay. So then we have another comment from Norma. She says, you have my support for the entire school project, especially if we make Sussex Drive a no parking zone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that needs an answer, but we had discussed at the last one that we're in favor of any signage. And Brian can chime in as well. Is our intent that parking for sporting events, et cetera, is not on Sussex. We certainly are doing our best to keep parents for the school operation off of Sussex, even for idling. So any striping of curbing or signage that prohibits parking along Sussex for support of these events, we feel like we've provided enough between the Lewes School parking lots that Brian described and our own on the new middle school that would support the fields adequately. And we don't want to encumber Sussex Drive any more than is and reduce that.
Okay, and then we have a question from John. And John, if you could put your last name in, it would be helpful. What is the stormwater plan? How do the holes support each other? I'm assuming he's talking about retention ponds.
Mm-hmm.
It may not flood other properties, but will it lie in these naked holes? What about trees in the stormwater ponds?
Again, if Zach has additional comment or Brian, obviously the goal, we're required to have this volume of stormwater, as you all know from other projects, and certainly the school that's under construction now. We're required to have a certain volume for infiltration for both treatment and retention. We're still evaluating the geotechnical reports to look at how rapid that infiltration is, but we're intending them to be dry ponds. They will be dry most of the time. There'll probably be some periods where there's some residual water in them. They won't be, they're not intended to be wet, so we don't want them to be mosquito breeding grounds. That's a different type that would have different considerations. That's not our intent. And with regards to plantings within, it's, again, Zach can quote anything specific, but as we understand, we're not typically permitted to plant trees, certainly in them, and generally not even around them. So there's certain working areas and parameters where they can work and repair these ponds as needed. We're going to try to landscape these areas as best we can. We don't think they're particularly attractive either, but they're necessary. And the real purpose is to make sure that the stormwater is operating not to flood ourselves or our neighbors, and we're going to soften those up as best we can.
Okay, and then Norma has commented on Darren's comment about how the water line main was put in, and she says not true. Highland Acres paid the lion's share, and BPW added an incremental amount to carry water beyond Highland Acres to support Pilot Town Village. Darren, do you want to comment further on that, or do you want to get back to us on that?
Well, if Mr. Mayor, I can answer the question to it, is that, the point of connections that we're making for the new school are actually the same connections that are out there today. We're looping the system just to get fire protection. But
Okay.
As far as anything up near Highland Heights, we're not even touching the water main.
Okay.
And it's actually where the existing conditions are.
And the size of the water main coming off of the main to go into the school, is it approximately the same size as the previous one?
We're reusing the existing, as Zach said, we are reusing the existing infrastructure exactly as is. We didn't have to upsize anything.
Okay, great.
We have a fire pump, which is needed because of the size of our school, but as far as service lines and exit sanitary, et cetera, we're not changing any of the existing infrastructure from the school that is currently in operation.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then from Harry Geiser, we have the following. According to what was said at an earlier meeting, the lower part of your property is truly the lowest part of the backyards. This regularly fills with water and is your property's problem, not the neighbors. The edge that you put on your shot put area in the low water area, what will you do to solve this problem? Also, you said at a previous meeting that the water retention ponds will drain in 24 to 48 hours. If your water retention ponds are dug at a water table level, how will they drain? As an example, the present water retention pond you have dug at the old high school has had standing water since it was completed. Is it really what these ponds will look like?
I'll answer 2 out of those 3, and then I'll get Zach and Brian's help for one of them. But for that first one, it's not like we're putting the track exactly how the site lays now. The whole site gets reworked. There are low areas now, but there's going to be dirt moving over that entire site. It's not that we're just scooping out 2 ponds on that existing facility. So where there are low areas on our property now, and when we get these reports back, all that will be included as part of our site package so that the water flows the way it's supposed to on our property. The one about the existing old high school, I'm assuming you mean the Lewes building. That pond is not complete. It looks like it is back by Fred Thomas building. Until that building is open, DENREC has all of our silt devices, and it's trapping a lot of water to keep things clean and not going into to the pond. So it's not draining the way it should, and it won't until they release those bags when the construction is finished. And Zach can have more specific details on that. But it'll go a lot faster now. There's water in it because there's still those DENREC devices in there.
Yeah, sorry, Zach. Before you go, there's one. The shot put is a graphic. The thing is unclear. That's not a concrete paved area. There's a small ring, that fan-shaped thing is not a paved area, so that's not an increased pervious surface. That's just a graphic to show where it goes. That's actually lawn. Sorry, I'm sorry, Zach. I want to get that one out there because I can answer that one.
Okay, well, I'm just, the pond that was constructed that's being used now is being used as a sediment trap. And that's the reason why, that's the purpose of it, is to store water in there for sediment to settle so that clean water is discharged. So once that pond is turned over to a pond that's supposed to be functioned based on design, then that pond will be a dry pond within 24 to 48 hours.
So I just want to clarify so everybody understands the site's going to be graded. So a lot of dirt's going to be moved to grade. So the concerns about flooding is, so it'll be graded so the water goes into those ponds. Just hopefully that answers some of the questions as well.
Yeah, and I think what was brought up earlier is that we have to realize is that both of these sites, actually all three of them, even the one that that's currently under construction, did not have stormwater management at all. And you can see the amount of pervious area that exists as of today. So what we're doing is now making it so much better from the perspective of providing areas where stormwater management can be provided, as well as meet the DENREC regulation before it's discharged and before it runs off to somebody else's site, before it runs into Blockhouse Pond, and it meets the requirements.
Another question or comment from Harry Geiser. The original proposal you presented to the Park Commission meeting for the new elementary school, you indicated that the stormwater pond you have dug would have a plant shelf. In the final proposal, you dropped the plants as a cost saving. Is that?
I'm a little confused on the question. The new elementary school is another project.
Right.
Is Harry mentioning this middle school and is?
Not at all. It's just it's just the elementary school.
Yeah, so if it was from Shields Elementary, I don't remember the new Shields. We came, 2 years ago through? I mean, it's been under construction for 12 months. If there was a plant shelf shown, again, everything has to go through DENREC. If it was removed, it was probably more so because of DENREC and not as a cost savings measure.
But it was also based on the design too, in the test the soils test that were provided. I mean, at the preliminary stage, you don't have that information. I mean, we were able to keep the one out by the Savannah's Road to meet that requirement, but the one that is currently being constructed, or actually is constructed and being used as a sediment trap at this particular time, I mean, could not support vegetated material based on the design of that pond, in which there again, that's dictated by DENREC and not us.
We have another question that came in from John, and he's identified himself as John Custer of Savannah Road. It appears to be that there are 11 or 12 independent naked holes around the periphery of the campus. Look at the large hole at the entrance off of Savannah Road by the cemetery. Every person driving the byway into Lewes will pass this hole. I'm unable to find any kind of planting plan for this area. Again, that's a planning plan for the elementary school that you're working on currently.
I'm not sure what naked holes, unless he's referring to stormwater.
I think that's, yeah, he's using that naked
I
hole.
believe so. Yeah, and again, we're typically not permitted to put plantings in there.
Right, but the ones that are shown at Shields Elementary have already been approved, and I don't think we need to discuss tonight. That project was approved years ago, so everything I know it's 3 campuses, but everything around that new Shields Elementary and that front corner, is all, that landscaping plan and all those things are done, and we'll be finished hopefully by this time next year, and we can see what's there. If that pond in the front, I mean, Cape's been a great neighbor, and Lewes has been a great city to work with. If we open this building, no matter what was approved, and we notice that there's things we can do around that small front, we're going to plan it. I mean, we want our students to be excited coming here. We want them to have the best thing they can see. So if that hole, the way it's called, I can't put things in it because of DENREC, but if we can dress it up around it, and it was missed during this process years ago, we'll do it. But I think tonight we need to focus on the ones that are actually part of the middle school project.
Yeah, so I can actually answer that question. There are a couple of trees, just a couple, with some smaller plants going near the front of the stormwater management pond, closer to Savannah Road for the Shields Elementary School.
Thank you, Janelle. But we are focused on the new
Middle school.
Middle school, and we'll stay focused on that. So we have one more question from Pat Farina. I realize there are guidelines associated with construction of dry ponds and the type of landscaping that is appropriate. I repeat previous comments. Can you please either leave the few existing trees between Johnson Avenue and the field or plant some level of barrier between the houses and the dry pond?
Yeah. And
You showed that on your landscaping plan, I believe.
Yeah, I do remember this question still. We don't want to take any trees out, but until that pond is finalized from the geotech and DenRec, Zach, if the trees can stay, they're going to stay. If for some reason the roots are going down into that retention pond and they have to be removed, they have to be removed. As far as a barrier, you know, we need some some help on this one, because after the last meeting, half the comments said they want a fence up, which I'm fine with doing, but the other half sent in comments of don't put a fence up because they want to be able to walk to the site. So, you know, we don't want to tick off half the neighbors by putting up a fence or vice versa. So I think that's going to need to be clarified a little bit more. And, you know, if the district has to do a poll of the neighbors and, you know, majority wins, or maybe it's putting up the fence, but just supplying enough gates so that people can get back and forth. But we are not opposed to putting a fence around at least 3 sides of the property. You know, I don't want one along the side where the building is, where people are going to be parking, but along Johnson Avenue and the other side, and then the rear of the property where the homes are. We're not opposed to a fence. I see Patrick's question. Yeah, we do not want a fence. So as far as barriers, you know, I think one of the commissioners said it well at the last meeting. You guys are all more than welcome to plant a few trees as well on the property if we get done and it's not enough there. And the same thing as we mentioned at the with the ponds. If we put this in and it looks like there's some things that we can plant, we'll do it, even if it's not part of this, if it's shrubs or whatever. Those aren't huge deal breakers.
And then Ed Tesson has submitted a question related, or a comment related largely again to the construction of Shields. It has to do with the pond, and his comment is the new retention pond at the current construction site has not been dry and it is not fully operational. Even though this pond was presented as a dry pond, it is not. The new connector, the blockhouse pond, is causing serious problems in George H.P. Smith Park. When will this be repaired, and why not treat all ponds as wet ponds? As these concerns were raised, it was stated that these issues would be addressed in the future construction, but now we are being told that those issues had been addressed in the past.
Same answer. I'll let Zach give us a percent, but I would guess that pond's functioning at 0.5% or less because of it's not finished yet to release the controls. As far as serious problem in the park, I disagree. We have a weekly DenRec report that's quite lengthy for the site. And if there was anything going on there that needed correcting, it would show up on there. And, you know, that portion of the report has been coming back, you know, fine 95% of the time. And the other few times it's something that's corrected right away if something's come loose or, you know, one of the silt areas. But Zach, you can, again, that pond, and again, that pond is really Shields Elementary. It's not part of the project, but we'll entertain it for a second if Zach's willing to help.
I mean, just like I said before, I mean, the purpose of that pond right now is it's a sediment trap. I mean, during construction, and until everything's stabilized and pavement's done, they will convert that into the functional stormwater management, in which they'll clean out the skimmer, clean out the bottom of the pond, and then it will function as it's supposed to. But that's part of DenRec's requirements. And just like Brian stated, there's a CCR reviewer that does a weekly report, and actually DenRec, which is Mary Hamilton, comes down and does a report every week as well. So if there's anything that's out of the ordinary or causing any type of harm, we know about it ASAP, and the contractor is supposed to fix it. So there's 2 reports that should support it, and we'd be more, I mean, that's a report that's submitted every week.
There is one more thing that was sort of embedded in there, which may or may not refer to the middle school, and it was a comment about why are not all the ponds wet. There's a number of issues and reasons for that. You know, certainly there's some attractive features of a wet pond. I've done those. Dover High School has one with a fountain in it. However, the restrictions that are put on a wet pond are severe. And you know, one of those is protection. And if we had a number of wet ponds around, there's a certain liability, as if someone had a swimming pool. You know, there's certain liability issues that the district's not prepared to encumber. There's the mosquito issue that we'd have to do with certain things. So I don't know if that was a question for the middle school, but we did look into, there's a certain, as I said, there's a cachet and an attractiveness to a wet pond done correctly. But to us, the factors that were complicating factors far outweighed any sort of aesthetic benefit that we were hoping to gain.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. So that concludes all the, oh, here comes another one from Harry. The groundwater pipe that leads to Blockhouse Pond has created a dangerous situation where the ground is fallen 2 feet. Also, the collar around the pipe has still not been installed. These are all questions related to the current construction project, not related to the proposed project that we're here to discuss tonight. I'm sure that these are being addressed. Is that correct?
If those items are on the BENREC report, they're being addressed, if they're on there.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Darren has reached out to me as well, and we have been in contact with the contractor to address those issues.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, I think that then concludes all the questions that came into the Q&A box. We can open the floor to questions from the floor. If you'd raise your hand if you'd like, and we'll bring you up to ask the question. Are there
And I
any?
have a couple of questions.
Yes, go ahead, Khalil.
I've got 2 questions, Brian and Zach. The Fred Thomas building, what's going to occur? What's happening to the Fred Thomas building?
Nothing currently. There's no proposed plans. It's currently a district office annex because our district office is too small to house everybody. So food services, technology, facilities are over there. The other half of the building is used by the OSHA program. Both those usage are going to continue for the foreseeable future. The only way that would change is future years if there's another referendum, which there's not one on the books, for possible plans there, then something could occur. It's really not big enough. It can't become a school. Past facilities task force have talked about it as being a main district office site. However, its location, I think that kind of died off and wouldn't be occurring. So I think for the foreseeable future, it's staying its current use. There'll be some parking there that I kind of skipped over just to help the current situation, especially when OSHA uses it during the day. We kind of encourage them to park along the street, spread out as much as possible, but it does get a little tight back there. But there'll be some new parking spots as part of this athletic field. And then also around the circle, kind of heading towards Blockhouse Pond, that area right before you get to the pond that's been discussed a lot, will have some new parking spaces added to it as well. So we're putting both those in anticipation of the site being used the way it currently is.
Got it. Thank you. And speaking of parking, my second question involves the parking lots and the roadways. Will they be constructed of porous pavement?
No.
Is that an option?
Hopefully not. I don't think our budget can handle it. We went through that same question with the new Shields Elementary. There's, as Zach will tell you, great advantages, but it's just a cost that's not in our funding that we get. We get funded for traditional parking type setup. And Zach, if I'm misspeaking, let me know. But
No, porous material is 2 to 3 times more than regular pavement. I mean, we're running into the same thing with. I did a project in Lewes that's basically currently under construction, and the amount of money that it's going to cost them to put porous material in is extremely expensive. And it's always been expensive, but nowadays, if everyone knows, paving, anything that deals with materials right now is just out of the roof, and the amount of additional stone that you have to put in, anywhere between 18 to 36 inches of stone, because that's part of the porous material, just drives up the cost.
Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah, great. Those are only 2 questions I have. Thank you, fellows, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Khalil. All right, are there other questions from the table? If not, we still have the floor open for anyone who's in the audience. We still have 19 attendees.
I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Okay. Carolyn, did you have anything you needed to ask?
No, I have no questions either. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. Are there any other questions from those of you who are in the audience as attendees? You would please raise your hand. Okay. I see no other questions coming in. One more time, are there any additional questions? Hearing none, I think we can close this hearing. We can keep the record open for additional comments until this Friday at noon.
And Mayor, if I could add also, if the people that are in attendance, keep an eye on our agendas that come out for upcoming school board meetings. You know, we're at the schematic design level, but we're getting close to the design and development stage where things become into focus a little bit more. And I would anticipate July or early August meetings for those to be presented, which will have some of the different brick options that we talked about, some of the different colors in the building, and anything that comes out of the soil report or any changes. You know, every level we go to, schematic is probably at best, what, 40%, Brian, of the design, and then design and development is kind of considered 60%. So
Yes.
you know, we appreciate the public being interested in this, but if you really want to stay up to date the next few spots, keep an eye on those July and August board meetings and also our website.
Great, thank you very much, Brian. As you know, the public's very interested in this, and I'm sure they'll participate as they need to or want to.
Good.
So we're going to keep the comment period open until noon on Friday, and this will be an item on our June 14th agenda for consideration by council.
Great.
Okay, are there any other comments at this point? Hearing none, I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, we've got Tim raising his hand. That's fine, Tim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we'll adjourn this meeting and we'll be back momentarily because we do have a